So does it, let's bring the meeting for the Auburn Water Trustees, February 17th is in session. Does anybody have a preference? Would you rather wait to the end for the executive session, or should we do it now?
Rather than not wait.
What?
Anytime you want, it's fine.
So Jason's the one that put the info together, so let's do it first. So we're gonna move us into executive session. Can I have, I don't know, do I need a motion for that?
We move into executive session in accordance with 1 MRSA section 4056C to discuss
Okay.
personnel matters.
Second that.
Okay, second by Bob. Any objection? All in favor? Okay, all opposed? Good. So what's gonna happen is
Thank
Mike's
you.
moving me
All right,
to,
you're back.
all right.
The lights just went out here.
Oh, look at that. You're in the dark.
Move your hand
Yes,
up.
except the
hand up.
screen. Everything but the screen.
Hey, I got to say, you look better, Bob.
Oh, there it is.
You're sitting too still,
Oh,
Bob.
Thank you. Yes, thanks. I guess what it is, if I don't move, the lights will go out.
What happened? Did the windmill freeze up?
Okay, so we are back. So now we're going to approve. I need a motion to accept the job description, the superintendent's evaluation.
So moved.
Second.
Second that.
Okay, is there any discussion
No,
regarding that?
I would like to thank Jason, myself as well. We're back in a public meeting for all his hard work for us.
Yes.
Tedious
agree with
and
that.
difficult at times, but I appreciate it.
We'll enlist Mary to do it next year.
Oh, no.
You're going to come out of retirement to do it. Thank you.
Okay, so without any other comments, all in favor, everybody that accepts it in favor of accepting it, show of hands. All opposed? It's unanimous. So we are accepting that, and Sid, we'll get with you to deliver that to you.
Okay.
And I guess we should probably do this before we do anything is Mary. This is Mary's last meeting. So
I should say, I do have a small bottle of champagne waiting for me when we're done with this meeting to say Yahoo! But it has been a pleasure, and I look forward to sometimes being on the Zoom as a member of the public so that I can be you'll have at least one friendly, knowledgeable face around. And look forward to the day when we don't have to be on Zoom anymore, but can get back into group meetings. When it's time for trustee open session, I might have a thought or two to share, but thank you for acknowledging that, Steve.
you're welcome. Thank you, Mary. So, okay, so we're going to move right on to our regular meeting. And first agenda item is to approve the minutes of the meeting January 20th, 21. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 10, 2021.
Second?
I'll second that.
Yep, Casey seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Second item, approve the minutes of the special meeting of February 3rd, 2021.
I move that we approve the minutes of the special meeting of February 3rd, 2021.
I'll second it.
Casey seconds, Bob moves. All in favor? Any comments? All in favor? So done. Okay, Tanya, financial report.
We're starting the year off good. Gallons sold is up 7.2% from January of last year. Revenues were budgeted flat this year on a conservative side. The first 3 months of last year did not have the rate increase in effect, which explains the favorable revenues for January. Payroll, UV plant, and insurances are timing issues for expenses, so they're a little over budget at this point. Overall expenses are currently $9,300 over budget. And the 120-day past due receivables are holding steady. Those dollar amounts are either in lien mode or under a payment agreement. And our number of payment plans are currently triple what we normally have. And payment plans are very labor intensive for the office staff. And we are very lucky that we have a great group of employees in the office who provide quality customer service to all our customers, regardless of their situations. Cash on hand at the end of January was at 1.6 million. And that is all I have. Are there any questions?
I would concur with you, Tanya, that the office staff is wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, they are great.
Okay, I think that's it. If without, then we will move on to, thank you, Tanya, for that report.
Yes.
We're going to ratify the payment of bills.
I move that we ratify the payment of bills.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Mary seconds, Bob moves. Any comments?
Just one. We have reached the threshold where we're almost 1/3 using Lake Auburn. We're at 35% Auburn, 65% last month, Lewiston, for the record.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor of ratifying the payment of bills? Opposed? Okay, unanimous. So that brings us to open session. Is there anybody from the public that would like to make a comment? Anybody in waiting room or? Mike?
There's
No?
no members of the public in attendance.
Okay, so we'll close the open session then, and we're going to move to the activity report and project update. Mr. Broadbent.
All right, I'll share my screen real quick. That makes it a little easier to see. Your activity report, you can see we spent quite a bit of time in January clearing cross-country right-of-ways. These are water mains that aren't within the right-of-way of the road. They run, through woodlots, connecting dead-end neighborhoods together so that the water mains are looped as opposed to being just that, a dead end. So we have about 30 miles of those. We try to keep those clear. We try to get to them about once every 10 years, get to all of them. So we've been doing quite a bit of that. The conditions have been favorable in January. We didn't have much snow. It makes it easy to get people and equipment, down through the woods and get these cleared. We did have 3 leaks in January, just a little over than we had last year in January, but I don't think there's anything to be concerned there. Gates was quiet. Hydrants was fairly quiet. Again, lack of snow, lack of snowstorms. People weren't going off the roads hitting hydrants. We did have 3 new water services, which is a little up from what we had last year in January. I expect this trend to stay above average throughout the year. There's several projects that are in the works right now that'll be coming online in the next few months as new customers. So you'll see more of that. Services, again, as Tanya had indicated, the payment arrangements, we're disconnecting now. While you don't see a lot of it, there'll be a lot of repairing of service boxes going on in the winter months. We are actively doing disconnects again. We only had a couple of frozen meters, which is, odd for, it's down for January. We didn't have any frozen services that were on us, so that's good. Meters were normal. Station checks are pretty good. Everything else has been trending normal. I don't know if anybody had any specific questions, but that's your activity report. We have been doing some not busy work, but necessary work around the shop. We pressure washed all the walls in the garage. We did some repainting. We're doing some stripping and waxing of floors upstairs, something that hasn't been done in quite some time. So it's good projects, and good upkeep on our building. So some of the extra stuff we've been up to.
Excellent. Anybody have any questions or comments for Mike? I don't see any. I don't see everybody though.
All right, I can jump right into project update. While we haven't been working on projects right now, during the winter months, we have been planning. We have a project timeline put together for all our water main replacement plans for this summer. It's looking like, we will have a busy year, but definitely we'll have the time we need to get the work done. I've been working with the city of Auburn. It's more than likely we'll put our work on 3rd Street out to bid as part of their project. They are planning to do the bulk of 3rd Street, so that'll be beneficial for both us and them and the residents on 3rd. So we've been working on that. One other item that I've been working on in our equipment budget for 2021, we have earmarked $25,000 for a capital improvement plan. What is a capital improvement plan? Well, it looks at all of our infrastructure, our, material, age, condition, break history. It can provide prioritizations on, what we should replace next, how much we should replace. It can be a very useful tool when guiding us on infrastructure improvements. There's a few different ways you can do some of these studies. We can put out an RFP and have a qualified engineering firm come in and do the study and give us a report. That report can then be used. There's also some new softwares out there that I've been really looking at pretty hard. These softwares would basically take all of our infrastructure that we have in our GIS, that's our mapping software, and then it would take all of our maintenance records and incorporate that into the software. And then it would be more of an active report. So if this year, if we replace 2 miles of pipe, that would be updated. And, then it would recalibrate the model and tell us, okay, your priorities have shifted. You took care of let's say you took care of your top priority. So now your priorities have all shifted. If we do the traditional method, you get a static report from a firm that, while it doesn't update itself, you could still, pick your way down the list. So I'm kind of weighing the pros and cons to these two different styles. I'm going to be checking on some references of some facilities and systems that have done this type of work recently, and I'm hoping to come back to you in March 26th, and update you on which way we're looking to go. But definitely, either way will be a good useful tool that we'll be able to have in our tool belt. So. That's just an update on that. I do expect to have that in March.
Mike?
Yeah.
Real quick, I appreciate that, because I think that's something that's been long since needed. And I would be in favor of the type that was a live document personally. And if it's not too much difference in price or whatever, because I really think that would be cool to have. The other question is that the project for 3rd Street, how old is the pipe on that street?
3rd Street, well, there's a couple of different vintages on 3rd Street. One was put in the 1930s, and then the others was in the 1950s. So we're going to wind up doing it all, the majority of it, but most of it was 1930s.
Okay, cool. That's great. So it's going to knock off a couple of things.
Yes.
Save money on the opening of the road and also get rid of some old pipe.
Right.
Very good.
That's all I had.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. All right, move on to new business, water quality update. Sid.
Yeah, before I get into that, one thing that's not on your agenda, but I just did want to briefly update you. I'm sure you all heard about the security breach that happened in a small Florida water system a little while back. Someone hacked into the system and was able to change some of the chemical parameters in their system. I just wanted to assure you all as trustees, that incident, it's unfortunate that it happened, but by the same token, this really was not a huge wake-up call for the industry as some might think it was, because most water utilities, in us, I can assure you especially that we have been vigilant to look out for any cybersecurity threats to our system. We've all been trained in it for a number of years. We do have a very robust security system for our water infrastructure. You know, this is obviously a public meeting and it's going to be posted online. So I'm not going to get into the detail of how we secure our water system.
Thank
That
you.
probably wouldn't be the thing to do, but I do want to assure you that we do have a very robust system, and cybersecurity threats are something we obviously take very seriously, and we have taken adequate precautions against that. I can't guarantee you that we will never be subject to a cyber attack. As a matter of fact, we have been in a few different instances, not our water system, but yep, okay, see.
You're muted.
I read in the Wall Street Journal that this water system had put TeamViewer on their computers, and they were using the same password for everybody who logged in so they could work from home. So it was a pretty unsophisticated
Right.
breach, because they opened the door wide open with TeamViewer on their computers. And so it was probably a person who previously worked there. It wasn't sophisticated break-in.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. So I just wanted to verify that, you know, this is not our first rodeo, and we're we do have a very robust security system. So just wanted to
Thank you for
assure
that.
you of that.
Appreciate that.
Water quality update. Not a whole lot going on. We did have ice in January 31st, which was the latest ice in that we have recorded. That was very late for the ice to come in. As you know, we had a warm January, uncharacteristically warm, but it's now frozen over. Water quality is very good right now. Turbidity is has averaged about a 0.6. Most recently, it's gone down even more. It's averaging around a 0.4, which is good. You know, when you have a good ice cover, a little bit of snow over the ice, that is ideal conditions for water quality. So that's all looking good right now. We might try some in-lake sampling. Normally later in the winter, if ice conditions are good, we do try to drill some holes and take some water samples whenever we can, but we have nothing planned at the current time. We'll see how the weather trend continues. So that's it for water quality update. Let me just go ahead, Steve, keep on going.
Yeah, please go. Yes, absolutely.
The COVID pandemic, I've got a letter in the file here. This is something I'm doing my hardest to stay on top of. I really want to make sure that our workers are able to get the vaccine when it's available. Things change and things have shifted on us. It was always under the assumption we were under the 1B category for vaccination priority. If you look at the federal CDC's guidelines, we're essential workers, but we're pushed into the 1C category for vaccination priority. And the governor has appears to have taken the stand to follow the federal CDC guidelines. The feds will say that it's up to state and local jurisdictions as to who gets vaccinated, but it appears that the governor has adopted the federal guideline. I did write a letter co-authored with Kevin Gagne from Lewiston, urging the governor to put us up into the phase 1B category. I don't know if you saw in the news, there was a story done on the TV news about the Damariscotta Water District, who had a COVID outbreak, and the only person left to run the water and sewer district was the superintendent. So that's a very stark example of what can happen to our industry. We don't have a lot of redundant people or processes in the case of a COVID outbreak. We're doing our best, but I have not heard back from the governor. I was hoping to hear something back. I have not yet, and I probably won't unless I reach out again. But as of now, we're all safe, and our office does remain closed at this time until this whole thing kind of blows over. But we're doing the best we can.
Excellent letter, Sid. Thank you for doing that. Very professional.
Oh, thank you.
Sid, have you considered or would you consider contacting Senator Ned Claxton to talk with him about it?
I could. The letter that I wrote, I also sent it to Mike Abbott, who is in the Department of Human Services. He's really our primary contact. He used to be in charge of the Maine Drinking Water Program, and he's got a special interest in our industry. He's probably the most connected, but that's not a bad idea. I can do that.
Because Ned's also, a retired physician.
Right.
And I think he sits on the health committee of the state senate. And I think he could be a helpful avenue into the governor. At least it'd be worth talking to him about it.
That's a great idea. I will do that tomorrow. That's a good idea. I also sent this letter to Bruce Berger, who's the director of the Maine Water Utility Association, who's also in touch with what's going on. But I will do that. That's a great idea.
Okay. AWIA?
Yes, in your packet, there's quite a bit of information and a order that I drafted to try to bring this issue all into one neat package. You might or may not remember last May, I got applied and received a grant from the Maine Drinking Water Program, a capacity development grant, matching grant of $14,250 to put together a risk and resiliency assessment report and an emergency response plan. The risk and resilience is due June 31st. The second part, the emergency response plan, is due at the end of the year. I did receive a proposal from Tom's Water Solution. This was a company, I did not solicit a specific RFP for this. This particular company put out, they kind of took the bull by the horns and knew that this report was going to be coming and due for most water utilities in the state. And they put out several blanket RFPs to a lot of water utilities. They currently have 6 water utilities under contract now that they're doing this report for. They really geared themselves up to be efficient and get these reports out and done. The report that was given, or the RFP that was given back to us, since we do have shared facilities with Lewiston, made the most sense from their recommendation to make this a joint report as opposed to having 2 separate reports. It would have, it just was more efficient to do it that way. I did reach out to Councilor Milks earlier last week, and I know we've got the whole cost share issue going on. For this particular case, I did reach out to Tom, who put the RFP together, wanted to verify the level of effort required to put this study together. And there's a note in your packet. It is going to be a split effort. There's no more work being done on the Lewiston side as opposed to the Auburn side. It said it would be a 50% split of resources. So given that, if you look at the order, what I'm looking for is, and my recommendation is to authorize to go into a contract with Tom's Water Solutions to complete our assessment. A total cost of $19,800. If you take that proposal, split it in half, our share of the project is $9,900. Once we apply the matching DHS grant to that, our total cost, out-of-pocket cost, will be $4,950. And this is a project that we do need to get done. If you do not complete this in time, there are fines assessed by the EPA. So there's a certain amount of urgency to getting this project done as well. So hopefully putting this in the form of an order kind of summarizes the entire project, and this is my recommendation.
Anybody have any questions?
Is there a drop dead deadline for signing? For choosing someone?
Well, we need, this assessment is going to take a few months to complete. Like I said, the first part of this is due June 31st, second part December 31st, but they're going to both be done at the same time and presented to us, so we have it in time to submit it to the EPA.
Did this vendor have an estimate of time required to complete?
It's going to, it is going to take them a few months. I wouldn't want to delay it. I think we might be kind of jamming up against the deadline if we delay this project.
Dan?
Yeah, it's a two-part requirement. So June 30th is one part, December 31st is the other part, but we also need to get our stuff to the state to get the grant, I think by sometime in May, I read.
That's right. I can, yes, that is correct. I can request a extension of that grant. I would prefer not to. I could, but you're right, that current grant runs out in May, because it was a year ago that it was approved.
And the only other thing is it, Sid, is it going to be impossible to tell the state that this $20,000 for this one water system, even though Lewiston is reimbursing us, we can't use up to the $14,000 to match to get more like 10 grand out of them instead of just the 5 grand?
I'm not sure I understand your question. The total grant is 14,250, and it's a matching grant.
Right.
So
if we are paying the full bill, 20 grand, we're writing a check for that, Auburn Water District, wouldn't they reimburse us up to 10,000 on the match?
yes,
So there's a possibility we could get an extra 5,000 out of them if we put it in that way.
well, we'd end up paying more.
Right.
Also, the cost from Tom's, the proposal they, on the February 11, 2021 report said that you provided to us.
Right.
The cost is specified as 19,800.
So the most,
Well, that's how much money we need, but they'll give us up to 14,250 for it.
so the maximum they'll give us is half the proposal, which is $9,900.
Exactly. So we don't need any more money. So we shouldn't, I don't think we should be going after more money. They're giving us what we need to pay for the,
Okay, I thought their match was only going to be 5,000 the way it was set up.
No, the match would be 9,900.
Okay, so the state's actually going to pay 9,900.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
it's on the back page of that
Okay,
whereas thing with Tom's Water Solution.
thank you, Bob.
There it is, yeah.
But Auburn's final bill is going to be $4,900.
Correct.
So Auburn still, under this proposal, our share, if we share with Lewiston, is $9,900. And then we get a 50% match because our share is $9,900. Now, if we paid the whole bill, then we get half of that because the grant maximum is 14,000 and change. So we are better off, doing it this way. I guess my question was, they're saying that it's equal time, 50-50 between Lewiston and us.
Right.
So if we went on our own, are you telling me that we said, no, we don't want to go in with Lewiston? What's it for just Auburn? They're going to charge us the full 19,000 for Auburn and then another 19,000 for Lewiston?
That specific question, I don't know. That's not the way this proposal was written.
Yeah, I see how it was written. It was written that, well, we do it Lewis and Auburn together, but it's about
Right.
50% time for each. So that maybe they're offering a discount for getting both municipalities.
Right. I
Or-
don't have a separate bid that shows two separate reports being done for each community. It wasn't
Okay.
couched that way, so I don't know what that would be.
Okay, because I mean, the thing is, if we said, okay, we want just quote us by ourselves, and the bill comes to 11,000 because it's one municipality, not two, we're still going to get a 50% match of the 11,000 and have
Correct.
a slight increase because we'd get 5,500 match, so we'd end up paying 5,500 as opposed to 4,950.
That's right. Yeah, that's
So-
correct. That's correct.
correct.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. If the study costs less, we'll get less match, and we'd end up paying it ourselves. Right. That's
I
correct.
guess my point is what I was concerned about was the metrics of entering into a 50-50 agreement with Lewiston, given the fact that we've been trying to work a better, more of what we feel is favorable to us cost sharing agreement. And it's the metrics of it. It's the optics. It's not necessarily the money. And I don't know if it makes sense to ask these guys, okay, just bill us separately from them, just cut the bill in half, and we'll pay ours and they'll pay theirs. And then it's not a 50-50 agreement with Lewiston. It's just simply, just send us a bill for half. Or something that's doesn't have the optics of an agreement, 50-50. Because I really think if they're going to tell us it's going to cost us so much to do Auburn by themselves, then we should get the bill that says, I'm doing Auburn by ourselves, as opposed to being in this agreement. That's my only concern, is having a 50-50 cost sharing agreement.
If there was if this came back that this study was going to mean more effort was required on the Lewiston side, I would wholeheartedly endorse that Lewiston pay more. If it was going to cost us more to get this study done because Lewiston was involved in it, I would not be pushing this format, but with this statement from them that it's going to be equal effort, that's why I'm endorsing this.
Right.
This
Because
program.
And Sid, when you, in the proposal that they provided to you and to
Yep.
Lewiston, it does say that 50% of the time and effort will be spent on the Auburn Water District, and 50% of the time time and effort will be spent on the Lewiston Water Division.
Right.
So they're going to be spending equal time on both with both water divisions.
All right, then we don't need an agreement is what I'm saying. So why are we going to sign a resolve? Have the guy do the work and cut the bill in half, send half of it to us and send half of it to Lewiston. If we're going to agree that we're going to split it down the middle, we don't need a resolve saying we are entering into a 50-50 agreement with Lewiston. We can still split it 50-50. And Tom's doesn't care where the money's come from. I mean, it gets one check from Lewiston, one check from Auburn, and they're whole. I mean, that's one option. If we don't want to, and the other option for me would be to tell them, okay, now we want it separate. Give me a separate quote just for Auburn. What would it be? And if they told
Andy,
us,
will this jeopardize the funding that we get from the state?
No, we got till May.
Jeopardize it.
no, because Auburn has the 50 match. So if it cost us 15,000, we would get a 50% match ourselves. And Lewiston would get a match on whatever they had to spend.
Well, they're only getting the match because we've got it and we're willing to split it with them.
The way this grant is written, and I've included this in the document as well, this is a grant to the Auburn Water District. I have verified with Sarah Flanagan from the DHS that this can be applied jointly to complete this report for both cities. So I guess logistically, it would make sense, I think, for us to administer the project, bill Lewiston for half, if they could come up with and Andy, one question you had, what interlocal agreement does this fall under? I think this would be a separate memo, and I know that Lewiston would be willing to do that, to talk about the logistics of reimbursing for this study, similar to what they did for the alum treatment. That was, I have an agreement for funding the alum treatment. I think this would just be a very simple document talking about how they will pay for half of this project.
So then I guess my point is if it's because Auburn's grant is that they're allowing Lewiston to use, it's our grant. So if it hadn't been for your work, they wouldn't have anything. Then why can't we make it 60-40 and let them apply their grant to their side? We that plant the grant to our side, they're still coming out of it a lot ahead because they're getting a 50% match, right? Of whatever their 60% is, and we're getting our 50% match of what our 40% is. So they're still getting all the benefits of it because they wouldn't have any grant if it wasn't for you or for the Auburn Water District.
I don't know, Andy, I think we're beginning, I think we're starting to get into nitpicking here. I think, I see an agreement that works for both the water districts, division and district here. It's well put together. It spells everything out. The money's available from the state, and the equal time is going to be spent in Lewiston and in Auburn. So they're not going to spend 60% of their time in Lewiston working on it, and 40 in Auburn. It's going to be 50 in Lewiston and 50 in Auburn. So this is an exception to, I'd
All
say.
right, so I'm gonna, at this point, we've gotten, people have had their feedback and their input. Anybody else besides Bob and Andy and Dan have input on this?
I'd like to know if we could get some other quotes just to see ballpark where we are, since this is the first one that just fell in our lap. And I do think the timing for to have a contract 50-50 is, it just feels like we're doing it to give Lewiston a break and doesn't compute. So I'd just like to get some quotes and give it a little bit of thought.
I'd rather see this get done now. And we're talking a net expenditure of under $5,000. And if we're going to move 10% of $5,000 one direction or another, I don't see the point of the argument or the delay.
And Sid has a lot on his plate to do. We don't.
And Bob, we got, I got your input. So anybody else? All right, so we're gonna have a vote. We had a motion.
My motion was to proceed with the request, with the order as Sid has drafted it.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Casey seconds it. Okay, we've had the discussion. All in favor of moving forward with this?
Wait, I did not participate in the discussion and I would like to.
Okay.
I think Sid's time is expensive. And I think that while I respect optics, in important situations, I think we're at risk of nickeling and diming this. And if you would cost out Sid's time in both his actual salaried time to spend any more on this, to get more bids from someone besides Tom, and to try to negotiate a different deal over a difference of what an ultimate bill of $5,000 because of optics and negotiation strategies with Lewiston, I think that we are in danger of a negative cost-benefit analysis, which we should do in general. And so I would encourage us not to die on this battlefield. This is a really small molehill, and we should stick to the big strategy questions so that this project can just be checkmarked and get done with so we can do the big stuff.
And I would agree with Mary. I would talk to Sid for an hour about this. I think this is reasonable, and I'm on. So that's my input. So now we're gonna have a vote. All in favor of the order as it's written and moved? That's 4. That's Mary, Bob, Steve, and KC. All opposed? Dan, Jason, and Andy. So it's been passed. Okay. Now we're on to bonding for capital improvements of the item. This is put on here. I requested this. I asked Sid and Tanya to put some information together on what it would cost for us to bond pipe replacement. We're going to have a workshop at some point. I'm going to decide when we'll send it out to get some acceptance on doing this, but the goal was in order to improve our cash position, and with rates being as good as they are, I asked Tanya and Sid to address and look at bonding options, and actually they have some potentially good bonding options. And within in your packet, there is an example of the cash position improvement that the district could get by using a bond, either 1 or 2 years, to, instead of cash, for the goal of replacing pipe, and potentially what Mike is going to work on is if we can potentially replace more pipe. But the cash savings, the improvement in cash that we would have by bonding it versus paying cash, and there would be significant cash improvement. So what I'd like to do is have a workshop at some point for the trustees to get together and really dig into this and have a discussion on exactly what the bond would look like. I know we have a bond coming that's going to be retired next year, I think you said, Sid, right?
That's correct. The end of 2022, it's like a 267,000. Well, end of this year, the last payment is going to be bond is retiring for a $267,000
yearly payment.
Correct. Right. So that'll improve our cash position after this year.
Yeah. So I'd like to get us at another time, sit down and have us as a group, and I'll throw out some. Does anybody have a problem with doing that?
No, thank you, Steve, for bringing this back. I think it's a very important topic that we can go through and hash out the details, whether this makes sense or not. I'm a believer in it, but I think we have to look at all the potential pitfalls. And one of them is, of course, that we do our own work, a lot of our own work, and that would still go merrily on. So that wouldn't be a savings in the budget or in the cash position unless, because we're still spending money on, capital out of cash for projects right now. That would continue.
Yeah, this would be, instead of paying cash for pipe, however we take that pipe out today and replace it, we pay cash for it. It would be borrowing that money in a bond and using that money to do the exact same, or maybe a little bit more if we can, but we don't, that's to be determined.
And it would be no sense in really doing it unless we were going to step up our replacement and do some maybe work on the outside as well, because
except unless we wanted to improve our cash position, and it would allow us, the way I look at it, and this is why we want to sit down in a workshop, that we would not have to raise rates in the next few years, because we have a bond being replaced. We have so we'd be able to improve our cash position and not raise rates.
Yeah, but also pipe in the ground. I mean, that would have to be a goal along with it.
I mean, that could be a goal, but even if we just replace the same amount of pipe, we'd be able to do those, improve our cash position and not raise rates.
And increase our debt.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we should definitely have a workshop on this because, again, what is the intent of doing this? That's one thing you might say is increase our cash position. I'm not sure if I'm in favor of borrowing money just to put more cash in the bank. I'd be talking about, my plan was always to borrow money to speed up our pipe replacement, because my idea was that we got pipe that in 20 years, we're never going to catch up. We're always going to have terrible pipes in the ground. We're never going to get the way it looks now, unless we step up our pipe replacement. And we can't do it with cash unless we increase rates enough to double our cash flow every year.
So that would be the goal of our workshop, would be, if we were going to bond, what would be under what parameters? And I would say that would be one of the parameters for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously people might even pay more knowing that the infrastructure is like up to snuff in 10 years instead of waiting for 20 years and still having half of it needing to be replaced.
So I'll put some thoughts out, some idea. Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, just Just a question for Tanya. We're at 1.6 million, and I looked at this time last year, our revenues, because of the new rate change, had continually increased. Where do you project us at the end of this year? If we're at 1.6 now, I'm thinking we're going to be 2 million, and we talked about the 1 million number a while ago was sufficient. So we might be in good shape if we do a little bonding, not increase our debt by going more than what we bonded before, and we're getting a lot more pipe in the ground.
I don't have any projections for year end at this point. March comes, bonds start coming due, and capital projects are going to come into play here shortly. So that is going to start going down.
And if you remember, this last year, because we didn't know what the situation was going to look like with COVID, we cut out quite a bit of our capital improvement money. Our revenue did not go down. So you saw our cash position get much better. This year, we are planning a full 2 miles of pipe replacement. So that is going to cut into our cash on hand. We're in better shape because of last year cutting out some capital, but we didn't put pipe in the ground like we had planned. So you can see that we're in good financial shape, but that gave us a little cushion, but we're going to get back at it this year. So you're going to see that cash on hand. If you look at that trend, you're going to see that it's going to be a little more, the dip is going to be a little more severe this year because we're going to be putting in a full 2 miles this year.
Could I suggest that this get deferred to the workshop that you're going to hold?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Thank you, Mary. Okay. So that's what that item was. Old business, City of Auburn watershed studies. That Sid, you want to address that?
Sure. Yeah, just very briefly, the city did approve going ahead with the evaluation of the ordinances applicable to the protection of the Lake Auburn watershed. And the consultants have started their study, and they gave us a list of documents that they wanted to see to perform that study. We actually researched those, grabbed them all, and we got them to the city this afternoon. So they should be ready for the consultant to start pouring through. There were a few of them we were not able to locate, ironically. Some of the older studies that were done in 1994, there were a couple of obscure studies that we simply could not locate. But we do have plenty of documentation for them to look through. And actually, as they start their interview process, I think there are some more documents that they might find useful and relevant, and I'll bring that up to them at the time that they interview us. So just to give you an update that is moving forward. They plan to have that study completed by the end of May. So we're just standing by and waiting for them to come by and talk with us, and we're ready.
Any idea when that's going to be, or will they give you some notice as far as when they're going to come by and, like you say, have a conversation with you guys?
I have not heard anything yet. They put city planner Eric Cousins is the city primary point of contact for coordinating this study. So I'm just talking with him, and I'm sure he'll reach out to me when that time comes. But
okay, you probably would be an in-person, or will it be a Zoom type conference?
I really don't know.
I guess what I'm leading up to is I'd certainly like to know some notice when that's going to happen, and whether or not it can be, if it is a Zoom meeting, if anybody can Zoom in from as trustees or can attend this conversation.
Is that, I can ask them, is that something that trustees want to be part of?
No, I don't think that's appropriate at all. I think that this is a time for the professionalism of the superintendent to be involved in responding. That's why we hire him. I think it's really important to not split up this process. This is a time for the professional to be providing information from this district, and that's why we hire a qualified superintendent. This process is at risk of getting even more politicized, which is never helpful. And I think that the city council is in charge of this. And our job is to provide the information through our superintendent. So I really encourage us and would even make a motion to ensure the professionalism of the response of this district.
Well, maybe you misunderstood what I was trying to say, because I mean, we wouldn't, if we aren't allowed to listen to the conversation, that has nothing to do with professionalism at all. That's called transparency.
We need to trust Sid to give us updates. And if we want to listen, we can listen to Sid's updates and we can listen to the council. But this is not our place. It's not a place for the role. It's not an appropriate role for the trustees, in my opinion. I think this is really an important time to maintain complete clarity of what is the role of whom in this. And this is not our role.
I think if your point is listening, Andy, to give us a chance to learn something about it, just to have a single, even a single session would be beneficial, but not something.
Disagree. I fervently disagree and would in fact encourage us to remind us that we would all benefit for more training of what is the role of trustees. It's really inappropriate. And I have to tell you, it would not impress a consultant at all.
So I tend to agree with Mary on this. I think our role is big picture advising on big things, and that we pay the superintendent to handle day-to-day operations and daily things, and that if we're going to be digging into his business, then we should be picking another superintendent.
Exactly.
That's my, and I certainly don't feel that that's the situation that we're in now. So I'm perfect. I personally am comfortable with Sid doing the right things on this. So that's where I come from. I agree with you, Mary.
Understand, I'm not saying that I don't trust us or Sid. I would just be curious to find out what kind of questions are asked, because again, a report's going to come out and it's going to have all this stuff and it's going to have recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be based on what they heard. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I would be involved, but I'd certainly like to know the kind of questions they asked. And maybe that's possible, just to know, here are the questions they asked. I don't know.
Let's ask Sid then, in maintaining clarity of who has what role. It's our responsibility then, in accordance with your interest in that question and curiosity, and Sid's, I totally agree with you, Steve. Then let's ask Sid to prepare for us a report on what he was asked and a summary of the answers that he was able to provide, so that we have an executive summary from our professional CEO. And that's the right way to handle this.
I would agree with that.
I'd certainly be curious. Yeah, I'd certainly be curious to know Sid's professional opinion on the people that are doing this.
I would too, as a matter of fact. So and I'm very interested in what they're asked, and I'm very interested in what Sid will answer. So of course I won't be a trustee at that point, but I would ask for even maybe a little. Anyway, I guess it won't be appropriate for me to be curious at that point.
It's all going to be public, Mary. You'll be able to see all of it.
Oh boy. Anyway, let's just be real clear about who has what role and ask Sid to give an executive summary to the trustees.
Would everybody be good with that? I know I saw Dan's hand up that he's good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Anybody else? Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up, Andy.
Periodic updates, an executive summary, and just keep us in the loop, and that's all we need.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't need anything formal. Okay, good. And then we're Lewiston cost apportionment.
Yep, just a little update there. As you know, the last trustee meeting we had, there was a response to be given concerning the PUC 10-person complaint. So we have submitted our request actually, we submitted our response and posted that on the PUC website. As of now, I have not had any determination from the PUC. So we filed our document and we're awaiting a response. I think you kind of all know that, but I'm just putting that out there as a
So-
reminder.
So what we're going to want to do is for the next meeting, let's continue, let's have this as a standard item on our agenda, because depending on what the PUC comes back with, we're going to have to address our next move as Jim, Attorney Pross told us that, we have to assess, depending on what the PUC says, what our next move is going to be.
Right. If between now and the next trustee meeting, if there is a posted response from the PUC, I will certainly CC all of you as to what that says and what it is. And then
Excellent.
we can decide what to do once we see it.
Yep. So let's just continue this as a standard agenda item until we've gotten something more concrete. If that's makes sense with everybody.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Yeah. That brings us to the trustee open session. Anybody besides Mary? I'm going to give you the last word. So Dan, go ahead.
I
Oh, hold on, Mary. I'm gonna give you the last word.
oh boy, I
Dan
love
had
that.
his hand up, so I'm gonna let him go first. You get the last word, Mary. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you. Just that we had talked about a yearly update to the job description. Maybe that could be a workshop item alongside your bonding.
Okay.
And
Yep.
then other than that, future agenda item I had, and maybe Sid could let me know if there's a policy, an internal policy that we don't know about. But when we appropriate or we get an RFP out and we get bids, is there a certain denomination, a certain amount of money that we should get multiple bids in? I'll let Sid speak on that.
We don't currently have a purchasing policy. If that's something that the trustees would like to see, we can work on that, but we do not currently have a purchasing policy like you described.
So if there's some other trustees that would be in agreement with me, then that would just be a future agenda item to come up with a policy.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Anybody else have anything before I give the floor to Mary? Mary, it's all yours.
Well, I will be brief. But I do have kind of a closing thought, and it's really the thought on which I came in on 4 years ago. And it has to do with how, as a board, thoughtful, informed processes are respected for group decisions. And I would say that there's still the board is making a lot of progress in that direction. But the cost sharing is a pretty good example of how hard it is to stick with that. And the opportunity is now before you, I would say us, except I won't be part of it now, to make sure that any one fervent belief or individual interest doesn't drive an agenda that the rest of the board has to then be in response to and reactive to instead of on top of. And that relates to the last moment that the board as a board was functioning in the right way was around this issue, is when we had the executive session with our attorney. And we learned a lot more about how to understand and tease apart and understand the interlocking nature of the shared agreements that we have that are legally binding and opportunities that there are and that he had begun to identify where some real latitude might exist and with a need to do a true cost assessment, cost benefit analysis, cost risk analysis. none of which has been done yet. And all of which I tried to get going in the fall of, it seems like forever ago, without success. But it's work that hasn't been done for all the passionate certainty that some people have and the individual actions that some people have taken on their own that has forced our board then to react to that. My final words around how a high-functioning, high-performance board works is that we create the right good practice and stick with it around study and informed decision-making. And that means that, yes, we have to now, because a PUC thing got organized, we are in reaction to that. But ideally, that we're not just being reactive because that thing got going outside of our board's action. We're going to stick to the right practice as a board. There's an analysis to be done around how these agreements are actually interlocking so that we know which door opens up into which door, or which are the doors that are already so interrelated that you can't open just one without the whole house of cards falling down. And we don't understand how much money is really going to be both cost to do this as well as get renegotiated. So I encourage the board as a whole, and whoever, Steve, if you're continuing as president or whoever becomes the next president, but every trustee, those of you who are continuing and whoever gets invited in, appointed in, to keep rising up to the best practice of a full board, where the board works together, not necessarily always in agreement, but with a strategic decision-making that is well-informed and well done as a group, and less driven by one person or some segment that just takes it off in its own way, but so good study of the important issues. And the last thing I want to caution against, again, which I spoke of last time, but it is about the fog of war. Strategic thinking can get very skewed when we get angry. And in the anger, those become the compelling emotions that drive decision-making. And in those of you who've served in active duty in the military or have any of us who've studied military strategy, understand that the fog of war is a very big risk in military decision-making. It often leads to poor decisions that seem so passionately right in any one moment, but they're not calculatedly correct. It's not actually good thinking. Be careful of the fog of war as you respond with emotions that you have around the struggle with our neighboring city. Because it could, without any analysis that's yet been done, a lot of these things now have gotten opened up without any analysis of how all these interlocking agreements could hold together or fall apart, and how if you pull one little building block out, you might lose a lot more than you think. And no cost benefit analysis has yet been done. And that's not good thinking yet. So that's my last word, actually, is a caution and encouragement, as well as to say that the board has come a long way. And there's an opportunity for this board to keep growing and strengthening to become the high-performing board that our community is counting on, because this is drinking water, which is really hardly anything is more precious than that for a community. So it's been a pleasure to serve with you all. I wish you well as you continue the important decisions that lie ahead for the board and for the trustees. I look forward to perhaps occasionally chiming in as a resident through open session. and seeing you, and I'm always available to be a thinking partner if anybody is ever interested in that. But otherwise, all I can say is good luck, guys. Best wishes.
Mary?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you for your thank you for your service here.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's, that is it. Thank you, Mary. We've had our executive session. Motion to adjourn?
What is the date of our workshop? That'll come out later.
Yeah, well, what do you guys want to do for a workshop? I'm thinking I'd prefer to do a workshop before a meeting. That's what we do at city council. I mean,
If you don't mind, I'm going to say goodbye. I've got a bottle of champagne waiting for me downstairs.
Congrats. See you
Sorry.
later. Bye.
Hi, Mary.
Bye.
well, we could do the workshop on a Zoom, right?
Sure.
I wouldn't personally want to do it before a meeting because I feel like if we really get deep into it, then we'll go to try to focus on a meeting afterwards. I don't know. What does other people think? And since it's Zoom, I wouldn't be opposed to.
Why don't we just do it 2 weeks from now? So then we have 2 more weeks until a meeting.
Yeah, what's that? That's the date, March the 3rd?
Yes.
Let's do it. I'd prefer to do it at 5 o'clock as opposed to 4 o'clock.
Does that date work for staff?
The city is going to be assigning new trustees on March 1st. So
Oh,
It'd be a good introduction then, if we had, you said March 3rd?
March
You know,
March
I'm
1st is the assignment.
Here, I'm wondering, just thinking out loud now, that maybe we should make this workshop for after the next meeting, because we're gonna have new trustees, or at least one new trustee. And then we're also gonna know what the PUC response will be by then. So if we're gonna do a workshop that has both dual function workshop on those two issues, should we wait till, because the bonding, the only reason that I'm looking at bonding is because the rates and the money is so aggressively low at this point. And with the option, so I'm thinking, would it make sense to wait till we get a response from the PUC and the new trustee or trustees?
You could always schedule it for March 3rd and we'll just cancel it if it's in the best interest of the superintendent and the president.
Would that work for everybody?
Yeah, works for me.
March the 3rd? I guess we'll do it, and we can, you guys all right? I mean, 4 o'clock is a little early, but does 4 work for you guys?
Want to do 4:30? That would actually be a little better for me personally, but
Can we do 4:30? That'd be better. Is 4:30 good for everybody? Okay, let's do 4:30 then.
And this is only if we've heard back from the PUC, you're saying?
No, we're gonna schedule it, and then if something changes and we're gonna schedule it, we'll cancel it if we think there's some reason to cancel it.
Yeah, you two could cancel it. I'm fine with that. And I'm not speaking for the other trustees, but
Let's get it on the schedule, and then if we decide to cancel it, we can cancel it.
that works for me.
Okay, so it's at 4:30 though, right?
4:30 on the 3rd.
Okay, cool.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all.